Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Next Perfect Step, episode 12, where all possibilities start in conversation. Today, we have a very special guest, Alicia Ham, otherwise known as Allie. And Lori, would you like to introduce your friend to us?
Absolutely. Allie and I work very close together. We're in the same office. We share an office together. So I am so excited to have her on today. Um, Last week was World Reflexology Week. And Allie owns Alternative Route to Wellness, located in two locations with me in Hampstead, New Hampshire, and she also has one in North Andover. Allie is a very talented hand-foot reflexologist. She's a certified aromatherapist, a wellness educator, and a reflexology certification mentor, as well as a toe reader. So I would love, in honor of last week's World Reflexology Week, for you to just tell us a little bit about what reflexology is and how it can help us in our healing journey.
Sure. Thank you. And it's such an honor to be here. And yeah, so I stepped into the healing arts when I was younger, and I learned Reiki when I was 15 years old, so 17 years ago now. And I knew from then on that I wanted to be more hands-on as a career. Um, Originally, I wanted to do another pathway, but I'll focus on the reflexology piece. So I found the benefits for myself first in a unique way, and it really helps to increase our circulation in our body and interrupt the body's stress. It also helps to cut recovery time in half, and balance things physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So I found it a really great combination. It's more physical and structure to also integrate the Reiki into the practice. So we're hitting on different levels and getting those mind body connections and kind of getting more to the root cause of something sometimes, or just reducing symptoms and side effects of if you have an illness or autoimmune thing that you're going through, or just everyday stressors, anxiety, depression, those types of things. So definitely different populations I do see, but also everyday wellness, or I call it like a monthly wellness check-in, where just checking in with the systems of your body, looking at the microcosm of the body, which is all involved in the foot. The foot helps to kind of look at it like a treasure map, like, okay, X marks the spot. Why is there an X on the foot? Was an article I wrote when I first started my practice, and that kind of helps guide in the session along with some other things. So I'll pause there.
That's interesting. Yes, go ahead, Lori.
No, I was just saying, as a client of hers, it's amazing when she works on my feet, how it affects my whole body. When I have sinus problems, she works on a certain area and my sinuses feel better. It's just really amazing. And when people ask me, like, so the way I've always like, to me, it seems like, and I know this is totally wrong, but I feel like it's acupuncture without the needles. Like what she does when she massages my hands or my feet, it feels like acupuncture with no needles. And it's just an absolutely wonderful, relaxing session. And it's fascinating the way that there's different pinpoints within our bodies that affect our different organs and different systems in our body. And it's amazing. It's amazing.
Totally.
I saw I saw a diagram of the foot and on your website where everything is connected
Yep.
on different parts of the foot are connected, or the hand probably too, to different parts of the body. Can you like explain how that works? That's very interesting.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So, we worked on Lori's toes for her sinuses, both in her toes and in the fingers. So everything's really anatomical when you look at the mapping of what we call them as reflexology charts, and each point is referred to as a reflex point. And essentially, with the over 700 nerve endings in the feet, for example, that does translate up into those organs or that part of where the reflex is. Um, and so, anatomically, if you got feet in front of you, or we have our hands accessible now, so toes and fingers are very similar with the reflex points. So this is all about your head and your neck and your sinuses and the fingers, eyes and ears. Well, eyes are in zone 2 and 3, 4 and 5 is ears. So we read the map by zones. So there's Lori mentioned like acupuncture. So um, their lines zigzag the meridians, and so I do have training in looking at, okay, what's a meridian, but I didn't go on to learn all of acupuncture. We focused on, okay, zone theory. So zone 1 is thumbs, zone 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's kind of how we categorize the chart. So zone 1 is all about the spine. So you got like the brain and everything in our thumbs, after looking at those sinuses here. So the spine is here. And what's super cool is you can get really particular once you're learning reflexology of where sensitivity might be on the bones here, and also it's reflective of the arch of the foot. So if you're looking at the arch of the foot and the bones just above, that the hard part of that cartilage there, that's all spinal reflex. So in school, I was just in the holistic healthcare program in Arizona, and I was just trying it out as an elective, and something super sensitive on my foot was the indicator of what was going on in my body or part of my history. And I did compress L1 and an injury. So what it was, she's like, the teacher came over and was like, that's like L2. So I'm like, wow, that's super close to L1, or maybe L2 was getting a lot of the impact of that. So even though I had done a lot of healing around that injury, like massage and chiropractic care, things like that, what I like about the feet is that we do all the work up here. We do our energy work. We do all our modalities, acupuncture, massage, whatever kind of body work. And sometimes it's like the feet is the last little piece to go that's holding on in the body. So what we do is we thumb walk, or jolst, or different, one of these. You got a nice little ankle twist there, or spinal twist, we call it, around the foot. That feels awesome. It's like getting your spine stretched. So all reflexive coming up into the body. But the feet is kind of the last little thing sometimes to just release that from our systems. And so we can have space for some newness, for like getting rid of that old story, maybe it is, and just bringing new energy to our cells, increasing that blood flow and reducing that stress. So that's one way of looking at the chart, thinking about the spine going along all down the foot, zone 1 on your big toe side to the ankle, In the ankle is reproductive reflexes as well as hips in there. So very anatomical, like this is the head space, the middle of our feet or the palm of the hand, that's going to be our core. So in our core, we have our organs, right? We have our digestive system, we have our respiratory, cardio, all that. So there's certain protocols where you can be really specific and learn how to be really specific depending on what system of the body that the intake form shows or the client discusses. But what's really cool is how you can have that awareness, but also with my intuitive and energy work background, really integrating both things. So I might think, oh, I'm going to be spending a lot of time on the spine, for instance, but it's really something else going on, like the shoulder, or it could be metaphysical, or it could be musculoskeletal. And that's just each day, each foot is different, and each session is different, and it just keeps me going. It's never boring.
Yeah. So you're also a wellness educator. So what
Yeah.
does that entail? And how do you work as a wellness educator with people?
Sure. Yeah. So I just get excited every time I talk about the modality that hasn't been apparent. So since, let's see, I think it was 2017, I taught my first semester at White Mountains Community College, and it was part of their massage program up there, 52-hour program. And that was kind of a stepping stone introduction if after they got their massage license, if they wanted to dabble into reflexology and continue that work. And what I found was that it was better to create an all-encompassing program for the state of New Hampshire. So I don't think there's another program that is predominantly in New Hampshire that meets all the state requirements, which is at least 110 hours of reflexology. That then you can go on and take the national board exam. So there is a separate licensing. You don't need to be a massage therapist I've never become a massage therapist to take reflexology. And I just found it really natural for me to talk about and inspire others of what reflexology is. So there's different, I can have a short course, or I can have the full certification course. And since 2021, during the pandemic, it was, I was very resilient, and there was definitely a lot of pivoting, a lot of ways to pivot during that time to start my own independent program of that. But I had 3 students in 2021. Then another time recently, 2 students, and then I mentored 1 gentleman, and we just finished him out a couple weeks ago. So he's all signed up to take his national board exam, getting ready for that. So it's just been an honor to be able to mentor students in between my practice. And
Yeah, I love to see your
been a-
passion and your enthusiasm for your practice and what you do and how you share it with other people. It's awesome to watch.
Thank you.
That really comes through, and it's nice to see that as well. Yeah. Can you do reflexology on yourself?
Yeah, totally. So we can go over, if you'd like, just like a couple points that are really helpful to just know, that to just take home today. So one thing is, like, when we get anxious, or if we have a stomach ache, right? I mean, I think we've all been there, right? So to access the solar plexus, it is really good to calm that system down. So right underneath the middle finger, underneath the padding of the hand, we have our solar plexus point. So what's great is to apply pressure with your thumb there, and just be careful if you do have a nail, good amount of nail, and you want to just add some pressure upwards and back in there. And then sometimes I burp when I'm on this point, which I just did. So that's a good release.
Means it's working.
I'm working. I'm sensitive to my own. And so that's when we can hold, we can take some deep breaths with. It's a great tool that we can incorporate into our meditation practice. If you have that daily or whatever thing you have going on, it's even got a stoplight to work on the hands if, if there's some stress driving to get somewhere, that's a good one. Another one is to calm the mind down before bedtime. This is really great to nurture the brain. So we're going back and forth with the fingers there. That can be really calming. So you could do it, right on your belly when you're lying down, or just to calm the mind in the moment here. And taking some breaths. And you're easily accessible to just collapse your hands together too. And in this moment, let's just take a deep breath in and out. Yeah. So these are therapy for me too. But it is great tips. Another really important point is pituitary pineal gland. So if we all look at our thumbs, there's a target, the thumbprint, the very central part of the thumbprint. And stimulating that point with a nail or just pressing on it is really good for our pituitary, our pineal glands, endocrine system, those types of things, stress system. What do you, Lori's, know about the pituitary pineal gland in your practices? Because there's so many important things.
Right. Oh, the pineal gland relates to the wisdom center, your third eye.
Yeah.
And that's also just a small, like a the gland is actually like a little pea-sized gland in the back of in the middle of your skull, or your head.
Yes.
And then it coordinates with the center here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Very good. Yeah. And also there's the pineal, which it helps to produce melatonin for sleep in there. So if we're having trouble sleeping, you can just simply nurture the thumb and breathe with that, and hold onto your thumb, collapse your hands, and just take some breaths with that. That will also calm down that whole brain reflex, and how that translates up into the body. So it can be a really, as you might already sense, can be a really relaxing experience. And the whole point is to get our bodies back to homeostasis. So that's a big word in our training. It's just another tool in the toolbox, just another complement. It is a complementary modality to most anything. There isn't many contraindications with this work. Pregnancy can be one depending on the trimester, and we want to avoid certain points, but we can still nurture, and with a light pressure. I would send Reiki to more so maybe first for a pregnant person. So I haven't really, that very rarely have I come into an instance where it would be contraindicated for that person to see me. If someone's in like a flare or had a recent transplant, those are some things that we'd be contraindicated, but very non-invasive work. I've had the opportunity to work intern in a cancer treatment facility and also AIDS, HIV. So helping them through whatever treatment they're going, reducing symptoms and side effects like headaches and nausea, those kinds of things. Um, I've seen a lot, and it just, like I said, it keeps me going. And it's really an honor to be in this position, and to that my life went in the direction it needed to be in this space.
Oh, well, thank you very much for those tips and exercises. That's great to know and to use. I know something else that the two of us work, we both work a lot with essential oils.
Yeah.
And I know that you're an aromatherapist. So I would love to hear, what's your favorite go-to essential oil and why?
Yeah, I love that. The first one that comes to mind is one I smelled yesterday when I was receiving from a friend of mine. I was receiving some polarity from a friend of mine yesterday, and she brought me back to my very first aromatherapy class at Southwest Institute of Healing Arts, and I had to laugh. So lemongrass. So at one point back then, like, I really needed an uplifter in my life, apparently, because lemongrass is just, I like, it makes me smile just talking about it. It's this happy citrus. And this time of year, as the seasons change, I think it's really important to remember our citruses at some point. We have our common essential oils like the cinnamon and the clove, which are awesome and warming, but really those uplifters that remind us of the sun, the lemongrass. Just don't use it in there's a nasal rinse project that we were doing, and the teacher's like, no, you can't put lemon up your nose. And that will get rid of all your sensitive skin in your nose. So that's a great one. Recently ordered some great synergies, and getting back in touch with Roman chamomile has been wonderful. Clary sage, rosemary is really good for mental alertness. My favorite thing is to have some rosemary in my car. So if we're falling asleep or we need that extra alertness to keep driving, I always let people know that rosemary is awesome to have in the car. Frankincense is so lovely, and something that I use in my practice right now, lotion wise, that's already blended, is something that is in our front room, which Lori makes.
Right.
So it's been an honor to be able to, she makes this wonderful foot and hand warming what do you call it? Oil, right?
Yeah, it's a circulation oil, so it helps bring circulation. So for all of us that either has bad circulation or we just are and generally have really, especially this coming up like winter, we have really cold hand and feet. It helps bring the blood and the circulation to those areas to help warm those areas up.
Yeah. And there's
Sign me up.
yeah, good. I mean,
Some of that.
how are your toes today? Mine are cold. I got the heater going. We're getting into that season for sure.
Speaking of toes,
Yeah.
Allie, I saw on your website these little toes with happy faces on them, and then it said, I do toe reading. I'm like, that sounds interesting. I've never come across that. So I'm just curious what that is all about.
Sure. Yeah, it's a funny, unique one. So at my school, we call it SWIHA, Southwest Institute of Healing Arts, in Tempe, Arizona. I spent about 3 years out there, and the founder of the school, Casey Miller, came up with toe reading, and she ended up bringing it internationally. translating in many languages and visiting like Japan and things like that. So there's toe readers in Japan as well. That's been translated, and it comes back to the 5 Chinese elements, but you can also read it chakra wise. So in your guys' training, or what you know about elements, I think there's 2 different ways to name them, but go ahead and name the elements for me that you know. The 5 Chinese elements, or any element. What element do you know of that you like?
Gonna say I usually use earth, air, water, earth, fire, air, water, and ethereal.
Ether or
Ether. Yes, ether. Yes, thank you.
So we'll start with ether. So that's the great toe. So let's see.
And then I think, like, when you think of what's the the practice of where the energy's all in the room. I know they use like wood and those kind of elements too.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a little mix. So I learned the acupressure side of things, or like qigong, and they use wood and the different times a day and the elements, things like that. So we're gonna stick with some of the 5, and you can kind of relate based on what the client already knows about. Like sometimes those other disciplines kind of make sense and come into play. But to simplify it, I have a little foot here. So the great toe is our ether toe. So that's all about the headspace. So in reflexology, this is the brain. So there's some overlap of toe reading and reflexology, but you don't need to be a reflexologist to know and learn about toe reading. So great toe. So this is the destiny toe. This is our life path toe. So depending on how the direction is, and there's no perfect toe. We're not judging ourselves here. Bunions are okay, all the things. But it does speak to our life path. So it can get really metaphysical and really soulful. So it's not something I like to like quickly do. Like if a client's like, oh, I also see that you did toe reading. Can we do that today? It's really good to be in the space and like have a space of preparation before coming in, instead of just something to jump into. And I usually have something for them to read before getting into this space. So I sit before the client on the floor and we're looking at your toes. So it really reminds me of one of my first spirit guides, being raised Catholic, and Jesus is my homeboy. So him washing the feet and things like that, like he really comes through for me in this space, because I'm not washing the feet, but I am paying very close attention and detail to the toes. And it is a place of honor. So ether toe. So sometimes they're off in one direction, that direction. Sometimes that just means that we're thinking too much about the future, or thinking too much about the past. So if there isn't a healthy space in between toe 1 and 2, maybe we need to practice more mindful practices. And my gap between zone 1 and 2 is pretty big. So that's also an indication of an archetype that that might be you're naturally more intuitive. So going for training as a medical intuitive as part of my coursework, and learning Reiki as from a young age, I feel like I've really overdeveloped that. And so it shows in my toes. We like to say we have a whole toe vocabulary, namastos, all that. The second toe is about communication. So who here has a longer second toe than first toe? Do any of you have a longer second toe, or is about equal to your?
Mine's
Mine is
equal.
long.
Yours equal?
Yeah.
Well, so that's good. So you got a balance there. But when clients come in and see me and their second toe is longer than the first, I know they're a talker. So 9 times out of 10, it gets 100%. But so that's kind of something fun that you can notice with your family or your friends. And we take a toe oath. So we can't read someone's toes if they're in flip-flops at the grocery store and we're in line board. But it is fun that we come into this world and we have certain toes, and one might be in a certain direction or longer than the other. The middle toe is the fire toe. So what do we know about the middle finger? It's very passionate when we use it, right? There's anger there. So if I see an angry red middle toe, there might be something pent up that we got to talk through for that day in a form of coaching. So it's also our passion toe. So if the nail's looking down, and maybe we need to fill up with some step into a place of uncovering your passions again, or maybe you've had to hide away the passions that you've enjoyed, and how do you open that up? That's just one way of looking at it. The fourth toe is our relationship toe. There's one foot that's more about the masculine side and one more the feminine side. So Lori's, in your training, what side of the body is feminine and what side is masculine, based on the energy work and your other practices that you do?
You mean like yin and yang?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, right. We have a balancing symbol for that to kind of balance both masculine and feminine.
Yeah. And so what is left more feminine or masculine?
Yeah, I've always kind of seen it as receiving and giving. So you receive with your left and you give with your right.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So the left side, that fourth toe, or ring toe, if you want to call it that, is about the yin side. So the left is about like relationship with yourself, but it also could be females in your life or those that present a yin energy. Versus the right side, that toe can be your relationships out in the world, how you are at work or in a group of people, and also the masculine side. So sometimes it almost you can even divide that toe out in a way to be able to really dive down into that section. But sometimes if it's really aggravated, like say male toe, like maybe they had problems with a male, like their dad in their life or something like that. Maybe that's a trauma for them. So just kind of talking through where they're at right now in regards to that, or how can we bring that energy into a healthier space? What can we release today that is being brought up? And the fourth toe is the earth toe, the grounding toe. So some people's, it doesn't hit the ground. So that could be because they're fifth metatarsal, there's something going on, and we can help it with reflexology. But if we're just doing toe reading for the day, like, okay, what can you do to ground yourself a little bit better here? Maybe it's just nurturing and saying hello to and touching your little toe once in a while, maybe to nourish that element. So I enjoy reading with the elements in toe reading. They can be divided into chakras if that is more your vibe or how you like to practice. It would just be like the third eye, which we mentioned, would be in the brain space in the great toe, and then working the 7 down to the root chakra in the little toe, which is that earth, that grounding element anyway. So
yeah, I love how you do the readings and it brings up a conversation. When I do card readings and stuff, that's what I love about it. It starts with the cards, but then it ends in this beautiful conversation between two people. And like you said, you can relate to what the toe's telling you and what the conversation needs to be, you know, the conversation that can be held between the two of you. I love that part of it.
Yeah, for sure. And one toe reading, like one day could be something, and then your toes can shift and change. So I invite people to take a picture of their own toes, or I can add their picture to my toe library and their file, and we can refer to it in 6 months or in a few months, or if it's something you're actively working on and changing your life in a major way right now, like, okay, maybe next week we look to see maybe something shifted. And something I noticed was my relationship toe. The more I worked on relationship with myself, and also when I started dating my husband, you know, a healthier, positive male relationship in my life, like I really did notice that that toe did get a little straighter. So that signifies like increased balance in life. And like I said, there's no perfect toe. We're all unique and different. So don't go out there pulling your toes and forcing them a certain way, because we're all on a different journey and we're all created in a certain way. But that's just what can be fascinating with the work.
Yeah, but that's where the conversation can start, where the awareness starts, right? And once we're aware of something, that's where, like you said, you can start working on the relationship with yourself or whatever conversation that needs to be had. And it's that first step on the path, right? Where awareness, and
Yeah.
that's what toe ring reading could bring to you, is the awareness that you weren't seeing before. That could start that conversation to a healing journey.
Really stepping into a new way. Right.
To me, it's amazing how many ways our bodies can speak to us.
Mm,
You know, this is interesting to me to learn some more ways.
for sure.
Absolutely. Speaking of more ways, I know that there's many other things that you offer. Would you like to tell us about those, and also how someone could maybe start their healing journey with you, ways to get in touch with you?
Wonderful. Thank you for asking. So in like a total healing session, we would start with a toe reading usually, and then getting into the reflexology and Reiki space. And the feet is a place I like to start with the reflexology, and then moving up to the hands as well as the ears. So there are points on the ears too that can help calm down our system, especially if we have a headache or something that day. I do like to go to the ears. So it's kind of what you're presenting for the day, working on that face up and then flipping over for the back and doing some Reiki there. I got a nice roller I use on the back that feels great by Ken, and with the magnet therapy and essential oils too, that I don't use the same essential oil for every client. I mix it up based on what their needs are and make sure there's no contraindications, that sort of thing. So that can be up to a 2-hour session in itself between toe reading, and it is a form of like soul coaching. So you're really setting the intention in that space. And even without the toe reading, it would be like a 90-minute session, feet, hands, and ears, Reiki. And that one's good too if you're not receiving any other work, or if you're really diving into something in particular. And then follow-ups are usually about an hour session. Toe readings I can do virtually.